We watch as the fire falls down. One thing playing on our minds. Time stops and we don't make a sound. You crave the love I gave, and we'll do it again. A cold night getting warmer now. The ground shakes as our love gets loud. We are the champions of the night. We are the champions of the night. Yeah. We are fighting tight for one thing burns so bright. We are the champions of the night.
Oh, shit. It's coming, everybody. Yeah. Yes. Step Back Tonight has begun. I'm going to try and see if I can balance out some music so that something feels a little bit... Hello. Everybody, welcome to Step Back Tonight, the weekly stream in which I hang out with y'all, ask you guys, or you ask me, I guess, things. We chill out, we talk, we hang out, and we have a good evening together. Enjoy our Tuesday nights. I see I'm joined by the Phoebe in the background there, as you can see. She's not super interested in what's going on, but she's there nonetheless to be a support. Yeah. Let me know if the music's too loud. I'm just experimenting with playing a little bit of tunes so that you can listen to, get a little bit of something so that it doesn't feel like such a hack stream. But music isn't loud enough. Oh yeah? I'll give you guys a little bit more. It's not loud enough, I can still hear you. Alright. Woo! Okay. So, welcome to the stream. Someone says they prefer no music. Is the music bad? Is it distracting? Just want to hear. I can make it really, really quiet. I have heard the music is simultaneously too loud and bad that it exists at all, so let me know which one of those is the true one. Alright. This is quiet enough that I think this is my compromise. Oh boy. Use the music over the intro. Is this need one of him T-posing. It's just doing that. That's about the best you're gonna get. Either way, hello everybody. So, let's talk a little bit about what's been going on in the last week. Oh boy. Good stuff. Step Back just made a huge-ish, a pretty good leap forward towards making Step Back my full-time gig. So that's good news. Some money's come through, and I found out about some pretty cool contracts. So the freelancing is becoming the key to Step Back, being my full-time gig. Pretty excited for that. I feel like with the music playing in the background, I feel like I'm more professional and legit. Either way, I do want to say that things are going well on that front. I've got some videos in the bank. I was doing some research today. I was reading a book by Ken Feder, who I'm going to be interviewing sometime probably in June for a video that comes out at the end of June. So I'm pretty excited for this interview. It's great. Whew. So what else? What else do we have to talk about? There's a lot of. I see the questions are already racking up, so that's already. I'm kind of delaying so that we can fill that up, but also fill you guys in on all the things going on. The people, if you were here on Monday, where if you want to get the primo behind the scenes stuff. Oh, we have a visitor coming. You coming? You want up or no? No? Okay. Yeah, 50,000 subscribers. That happened a little over a week ago. That's pretty nuts. And on top of that, I don't even know. How many subscribers have I gotten since 50,000? I bet it's disappointing because it slowed down quite a bit. currently sitting at 30,278, so it has slowed down quite a bit. That's okay. That's okay. I haven't made a video I haven't made like a main step back video in a while, so gotta wait to have some of that fun stuff come out. But yeah. And it's final week for American university students. That's depressing. Or is it high school students? I don't know. Don't American high school oh yeah, American high school students, they finish at the end of May, and they go their summer vacation is in June and July. While in Canada it's July and August. So I forgot about that part. So what else should we talk about? Yeah, if you come in on Mondays, where you get that like primo uncut shit, you know, you get that step back stream that I only have an hour, and I'm at a European friendly time, and so it's much more chill. One of the things I did then was I told everybody basically what videos I'm making for like the next like year and a half. And then I promptly went and changed it this morning. So even the information they got was wrong. What can you do? And I've made I have a oh yeah, and a Bananas Game of Thrones episode happened where Twitter came together to talk about how much they despised that episode. Because it was a bit of a mess, let's not lie. Tristan the Trickster. No. Just what happened is I did that stream where I said everything that I had planned out, told them that things were going to change. And then I passed a Patreon stretch goal. And that would be, like, after that, I hit that Patreon stretch goal, I had to add 4 more videos to the schedule. And so I decided, and I wanted to get them out as soon as possible. So there you go. So it does mean over 2020, you're going to be getting, hopefully, a 4-part series on what are called the quote-unquote BRIC countries. The BRIC countries that are expected to be the 4 superpowers of the world by the end of the 21st century. So we're gonna see you're gonna see a 4-part video on Brazil, Russia, India, and China. So that's good. Everyone, look at the left middle of the screen in the window. You can see Tristan's back and screen. Yeah, that's my curio cabinet. It's a window, or it's a mirror. You can see my face in like kind of like an infinite regression thing there. Ooh. All right. You enjoyed the Ramadan video, Some Random Geek? That's really good news to hear. Not a lot of people did. I mean, not that people disliked it. People liked it fine. It's just that it wasn't very interesting to a lot of people. Not a lot of people watched it. That's okay, though. You can't have every video be a winner. And April was a month where I was just like bang, 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 all sorts of really well done videos or really well received videos. And so I gotta come down from that a little bit. So, you know. Okay. Maybe I should actually get started into the questions. It's been about 13 minutes. Or what do you guys think? Should I distract you guys for some more? No, let's do this. What's the first question we got for tonight? By the way, the sounds of outside, I hope. Your curio cabinet annoys my OCD? Why? It's got... Let me see. What do we got in there? That is an Aztec calendar stone. That's a Chocmul statue made of jade. That's a Mayan calendar stone. Then there's an empty bottle of lemonade. What is that other thing beside it? Oh, some Star Wars stuff, because there was a time when my in-laws and my family thought that I really liked Star Wars, or that I was like a really big Star Wars fan, and so everyone just got me Star Wars gifts. So there's like a little Millennium Falcon and TIE Fighter on there. And back when I was a PhD student, I used to have a little statue on my desk of the Freedom Tower, the rebuilt World Trade Center tower that's also in there. There's an obsidian knife. There's a Jim Raynor action figure that came from BlizzCon 2009, and there's a wooden bird made by a Mohawk artist that I purchased when I was in Montreal. And down there in the little thing, there's the Nookshook. It's like that's like the little Canadian shelf, and there's a obsidian mask down there. And the bottom level, there's Buddhas. I have 2 Buddhas. One made out of volcanic stone, one that's like red, and then it's got also an English. A friend of mine who purchased me a first edition English version of Mao's Little Red Book, and so I've got like a little china shelf on the bottom there. How expensive are obsidian things? Depends upon where you purchase them, and I purchased all of my obsidian things when I was in Mexico, so I got it cheaper, I think, but it was still, the mask was still pretty pricey. If I remember, the knife was about what should I say? The knife was about $10. I don't know. Trying to convert from pesos is a little confusing. And the mask with it's, I think, pretty expensive. I had a nicer one, but it actually broke, tragically, I think in the move or something. You have an obsession with perspective and light sources. The way the back mirror reflects the rest of your room confuses me. Oh, well, I can't do much about that. It's there. Oh, and there's also a Breaking Bad action figure of Walter White in his underwear. Because, and gargoyles. Gosh, that whole shelf. I have a whole gargoyle shelf. And some stuff that my sister got when she went to Europe. How much were they in pesos? If I remember correctly, it was $10. It was about $10 in 2011 pesos. So that would have probably put it at around like 100 pesos, maybe like 1,200 pesos. Because I also got another one that I haggled down and then I gave to somebody. Okay. And then, yeah, I had an obsidian mask that broke. And I was going to glue it together, but then I never did, and now I don't know where it is. Then I got my Bernie Sanders stuff. Yeah. All right. I'm seeing a big old pile of questions I should probably answer. So let's start with numero uno. Will alternate history streams, game streams, and story-making streams come back at all? Well, only Bro 555. According to the data, that is not the things that people want to see. I might add another streaming date, another streaming slot, if I can get myself to full-time status. I might do I don't know what it would be, but a different streaming time, where I might do something like that. But at the moment, this is the thing that people seem to want to hear the most. And so, this is what I'm going to do. This is what people like. Can't really say much to that. But I crunched the numbers from lots of streams, and I found that this was the kind that people like the most. And then, yeah, I think the other things I would probably like to do as its own show, but I'm only one man. And I currently have a full-time job that makes slightly less than half of my income. So it's a full-time job, less than half my income. So, still necessary. Got to get there. Got to break out of the 9 to 5, and then I can start doing more fun things like that. All right. Tristan, how jealous are you of me that I was able to see the documentary What We Left Behind looking at Star Trek Deep Space Nine in the theater? Well, some random geek, that sounds really, really awesome. I am super jealous. Especially because I'm probably not going to be able to see it for a while. I think I said on Monday that so for anybody who wasn't in the stream on Monday. By the way, if this is your first Step Back stream, please say hello in the chat. I would definitely like to see how many new faces are in there. But yeah, to answer the thing about Deep Space Nine is that Deep Space Nine is a woefully underappreciated Star Trek series. Oh, look. I saw Cynical Historian's in here. Hey, buddy. Cypher. Yeah, just taking up all the oxygen in the chat room. That's all right. So Deep Space Nine, very, very good Star Trek show. Doesn't I think the non-Enterprise focused Star Trek shows that don't really that don't really get the same attention. I'm really glad that they're finally moving it around. I'm interested in seeing what if they ever make a Voyager version of that, because Voyager was a show with much more of a shall we say controversial reception when it first came out, and I think though a lot of people are revisiting it in the decades afterwards, that would make Cypher a mod. Sure, why not? He knows how to throw out the bums. There you go. Cynical Historian is now a moderator for the channel. Congrats. Yeah, so Deep Space Nine and Voyager are shows that people are kind of rediscovering and enjoying a lot more. And the real Trekkies will say that Star Trek, that Deep Space Nine is their favorite. So, but it doesn't have the same cultural penetration that say the other ones have. And yeah, don't worry, Cypher. You can stay. You can no sticking up the. What's it called? People are just excited. It's good. It's good to have a random celebrity drop in. I'm perfectly happy with that. So there's a documentary coming up because Deep Space Nine is turning 20, and it looks really nice. It's got a lot of interviews, and it's got a lot of HD remastered footage from the original show, and so I'm really excited to see it. And you got to see it in theaters, just pretty sweet. I think I'm going to wait until Kelly has seen all of Deep Space Nine, and then I'll probably see What We Left Behind. That's my hope. Who drew the art? I need to hire them. That one I think was drawn by Hoar. It was drawn in the early days of the Discord. I have a collection of... I keep a folder on my computer of fan art and fan memes and step back memes and things like that. And I found it in there. I know that somebody in the Discord drew it very early on in the channel, or very early on in the Discord. And I can't remember who drew it, but it's great. And so I just wanted to show it off. Yeah. Voyager was my favorite when I was a kid because there was a woman captain. The Borg gave me nightmares for her. Yeah, so Voyager had the Borg featured quite a bit. It did have a lady captain, which is, a thing that people did not appreciate in the late 90s, but I think people appreciate a little bit more today, especially with Kate Mulgrew and her showing how awesome she is on Orange is the New Black. But then on top of that, the thing about Voyager that I would probably say about it is the least interesting characters on Voyager are all of the male characters. Like the thing about Voyager that makes it so good is that that it has really well designed three-dimensional female characters. So much so that they kind of forgot to give the same amount of dimensions to the male characters, except for maybe the Doctor. He's pretty good. He's got the whole I'm a hologram, but I'm also a person. That's kind of like the story about him exploring his humanity. For anybody who hasn't watched Voyager, basically the thing about Voyager is, but the Doctor in Voyager is that he is, the premise of the show is that their ship gets launched to the other side of the galaxy, and it's going to take them like 70 years to get home. But in the process of getting like splooped across the galaxy, the Doctor, the medical officer on the ship, is killed. And so what they have in Star Trek world is something called the emergency medical hologram, which is a holographic doctor that can do like short-term emergency medical procedures, but can't leave sickbay. And they end up having to rely on this doctor for the whole show. And then in the over the period of the show, they keep having to make hacks onto his code so that he can like keep being stable longer. But then as he kind of keeps being longer, like as he keeps being more human, or more, he spends more time like activated, he becomes a lot more whatchamacallit, he becomes more human, and he starts trying to explore his humanity and all sorts of stuff like that. And it's I think it's pretty cool. Do you think the push for women and minorities to go into STEM is good? Is the humanities outdated? I think it's a ploy to lower the wage for STEM jobs. Well, Argos, there's certainly a few things in that sentence. Do you think it's the push for women and minorities to go into STEM is good? Yes. Yeah. I really wish that there were more women in some fields in the humanities as well. We need way more women historians. We need way more women in grad school in general, not just STEM. And right now, women are unfortunately clustered into only a few. Or this is not like 100% the case, and it's getting better year on year. But there's this big drop off of women once you cross over from undergrad to grad school. And it would be a lot better to get a lot more women into grad school. Then on top of that, there are a few disciplines that overrepresent women at the graduate level. And then there's many more that don't. And I think that getting more women into fields like history and more fields like the STEM fields, abstract mathematics in general, like these kinds of things would definitely do well. And people of color, all sorts of somebody had a good line that was like any like oppressed group trying to get. I think there should be more of them in higher education. I think that diversity would be strong for any discipline, and would end up with better people. We'd end up with better science and better history and better everything. As for the humanities being outdated in the neoliberal sense of the university, yeah. I actually suspect that there's going to be some departments. I think that some universities are just flat out not going to have history departments in the near-term future. Most non-STEM university departments basically don't hire new professors anymore. They just if they wait for professors to retire and replace them with contract faculty, which they basically are people paid by the course to teach courses so that they can keep their content calendar open, but they don't have to fund any more research or give anybody benefits or tenure, which means that the act of teaching university is turning more into a competition for contracts, and you end up with a lot of professors who spend decades, if not longer, bouncing between multiple universities every week. Like, I had a contract faculty professor at my graduate school who taught a few classes in Toronto and a few classes in London, and he would leave his kids and leave his wife and his like 2 kids and drive to London, and then he would stay in a hotel for like 3 days out of every week while he went and did his 3 classes, and then he would go back at the end of those 3 days, and he did this every single week. And that's not an uncommon story. There's a lot of contract faculty who end up in multiple places because the whole tenure track permanent job is just disappearing. And in history, I don't know if there's going to be a point where they're just going to stop hiring new history faculty, and then they're just not going to be around anymore, and then no one's going to do new history. It's just going to be a bunch of history PhDs doing coursework. which is sad. Means that there's going to be no more original research after people, like, you know, updating their, what's it called? After people turn their dissertations into books, and then you won't see anything after that. Do I hear music? Yes, Shannon, you do hear music. I'm putting on a nice little Twitch-friendly playlist, just to, like, you know, give it some, give the background some texture. Then the next question on that list was that or the statement that you think it's a ploy to lower the wage for STEM jobs. I mean, I'm not sure if I think that it's more lack of seeing in the long term, if you think about it. Like, there was a time in the 90s when everybody was told to become computer programmers. And then they got a huge glut of computer programmers, and the wages went down for computer programmers. And they're just now starting to get back up. But, like, the thing is, a lot of people are applying for jobs that have the best salaries, and then they overcorrect, and then wages drop, and then people will find something else. The only problem is that the amount of overall jobs in the economy is going down, and so there's not always going to be a thing that is not competitive, and as we play musical chairs for the last jobs left, it's going to get more and more competitive, and that means wages are going to get lower and lower and lower. Our eventual march towards communist revolution, or, you know, inevitable revolution. That's basically the thing. So you know. We's fucked. Towards the end of the shock doctrine, Naomi Klein talks about how the world may finally be turning away from neoliberalism. Was Naomi Klein being over-optimistic, or did it really seem like that in 2007? Yeah. In 2007, it did seem like when, you know, George Bush was getting a lot of hate, that a lot of people were, you know, tired and were done with neoliberalism. But then Barack Obama got elected, and I remembered, like a lot of other leftists who were, you know, adults at that time, that Barack Obama got elected, and then the left just like a lot of people who we thought were our allies because they were fighting George Bush and the war on terror just shut right up as the exact same things happened but under a Democrat. And then watched as, like, you know, the economic collapse happened and Obama did nothing about it, because Naomi Klein is the person who also called for Occupy Wall Street, so you can tell that even she's gone through a change. That's that. Doughboy DeVito, what do you think about Jack Saint's video on Friends? I haven't seen it. Sorry. I am looking at. I can look. I am very behind on YouTube videos right now. I'm chewing through a huge backlog of videos. The most recent one I just watched was like an almost 2-hour video on Dave Rubin and how shitty he is. The video I'm watching right now came out on April 24th. So that's where I'm at. Where's my cursor? Come on. There we go. So take that as you will, you know. We don't have that. I'm pretty far behind, so I haven't seen the Friends video. Plus, I don't know if I'm subscribed to Jack Saint yet. I'd have to think about it. I don't remember which one is Jack Saint. There's so many new good bread tubers these days that I have to, like, work to keep up with them all. Whew. Some Random Geek asks, did the famines that happened during the USSR happen because of government or because of privatization? I imagine it's happened because of mismanagement and centralization and autocratic governments that were trying to suppress dissent at the same time as making their collectivization changes. I will be doing more research about this later, because I have a video on the Holodomor and sort of how do we talk about the Soviet Union as leftists today in a video that's coming out in September. So at the moment, I am in research land for Ancient Aliens and the Haudenosaunee Confederacy's Constitution and the Satanic Panic. Like that's the world that my research land is in right now. So I will probably have a smarter answer this fall about that. Okay. What is next? Thoughts on anti-intellectualism and the conservatives' love for it. I mean, it's got a long... Anti-intellectualism has a long thing in America of not trusting elites, not trusting, pencil-neck people from elite institutions. It's not always conservative either. The populist movement of the late 19th century was predominantly a farmers' movement in rural America, and they also were not really big fans of all of the intellectuals who were saying that all this industrialization and growing inequality is good, actually. And it honestly doesn't even surprise me that there are anti-intellectuals today, because look at all of the people that have been considered the intellectual leaders that are guiding society. Look at I've been dunking on him a lot lately, but look at Nate Silver, look at Ezra Klein, look at Matt Iglesias, look at all of these people who describe themselves as wonks, as certified smart boys, who then go on to defend growing income inequality and some of the worst excesses of neoliberalism. Honestly, if you didn't know what socialism was, if you did not know many people, many other overeducated people, except for the people you see on TV, you'd have a pretty good idea that intellectuals are self-important douches that don't really care about what happens to the common worker, which, that's depressing. It'd be really great if, they showed, you had more of that. And I think that making political ideas accessible to the average person is important. That's why I have an entire career based on translating history to something that is publicly digestible. And conservatives, they love it because a system justifying belief, many of the that's basically what conservative ideology is: a system of just things are fine the way they are, or they need to go back to the way they were. No real reason. Typically with just kind of a nostalgia for an age that never existed. And because of that, they it's an easy message to sell to people who are consistently watching themselves, the quality of their life go down. Whew. I'm pretty sure that Cypher's got something to say on this. I imagine, as an Americanist himself, he probably has some stuff. He also has he's in grad school, so his brain hasn't atrophied like mine, and so he has a much better memory. He's probably more up to date on this stuff. I don't know. All right. When is Trump going to build the third temple in Jerusalem? right after he slaughters a calf on live television. I don't know. Like, what's it called? All you would need is, like, the Antichrist. The Antichrist would just need to become a person who works for Trump. And then Trump will be like, we're going to build this amazing temple, a third temple. It's going to be great. I've left my friend. I have my friend here, the Antichrist. He says that the temple, it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be huge. It's going to be gold, even more gold than the mosque. It's going to be great. Ted Cruz is the Antichrist. He's definitely high on the list of potential candidates, that's for sure. And yeah, then Trump is going to build the Trump third temple of Jerusalem. And I mean, if that's not a sign of the end of the world, I don't know what is. Tristan, you do a scarily accurate Trump impression. Oh God, I don't think that's a thing. That's not a skill that I want to rely on. Trump Tower, Jerusalem. Oh gosh. It's perfect. There's a guaranteed customer base. Everyone will be coming to the temple in Jerusalem. Everyone. It's going to be great. And then the world will end, and Jerusalem will be the only city left on earth. If you're the only city, everyone's going to come to your place. It's going to be great. All right. Talk about the cult of reason during the French Revolution. I know a little bit about that. I'm not like a super big Euro history person. I did take a French Revolution class. I can talk a little bit about it. But basically, from what I remember was that there were a lot of, like, they didn't have the real concept of, like, atheism in the sense that we think of it today. And some of the people, some of the Jacobins during the French Revolution were very anti-institutions, or against many of the institutions in France, including the church, the Catholic Church. And so a lot of their ideas were to make a new church, because they didn't really think the average person could function without church. And so they made, they were going to make something called the Church of Reason, where they were going to, like, do, like, sermons on philosophy, and they were going to make, like, a deity of reason and all this kind of stuff. Kind of the same movement that led to the French to try, like, metric time, and they made their own calendar and all sorts of neat experiences, or experiments in trying to, like the metric system came out of the French Revolution, if I remember correctly. But other things like they were trying to do things like a metric time, which was going to be like 10 hours a day, each one made of 100 minutes, and each one of those minutes would have 100 seconds. Then they made they had a metric calendar where the months didn't have names. They had all of the religion taken out of them. They were just like month 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and like I think every day had every month had the same amount of days, and like all this kind of stuff. And it's like it was just very like, that's the years. I guess I think that they scrubbed a lot of the religion out, and I think they changed. Either way, it was interesting. It was interesting because like in that revolutionary moment, like everything was up for grabs, which I think was kind of interesting. That there was so much that could have been changed. Has Tristan listened to the podcast that Ken Feder sometimes co-hosts? It's called Archie Fantasy. No, I probably should listen to it because I do have like I am interviewing him for my Ancient Aliens video, and so I sent him an email, and he emailed me back saying that he had watched my 9/11 Truther video, and that he watched my video on theories of pre-Columbian contact, and he was like, "These are good. I will totally be in your video, look at your script, and all that kind of stuff." So he's like really excited about it, and I'm reading his book called Frauds something and something. Ken Fetter's book. He has like a really big, like, he has a book that like everybody, like, it's like the version I'm reading is like the 8th edition of this book. Frauds, Myths, and Mysteries is his book, and I'm reading the relevant chapters in anticipation of the interview, and it's in its 8th edition. It's like a pretty big book on like tackling pseudo archaeology, which is, that's what I'm doing my video on. It's interesting. I'm going to have to be very careful because he has closer ties with people like Michael Shermer than I'm like, I got to be like, make sure he doesn't like secretly hate Muslims or something. Because a lot of like rational skeptic debunker people ended up getting a little weird over time, but I imagine that's not the case. I'm pretty excited to do that interview, and I probably should listen to his podcast that he's been on. Michael Kirster, does the BRICS prediction take into account the effects of global warming? I actually do not know. I think it's just like what are the fastest growing economies in the early 21st century and kind of extrapolating that out. Why do males have the stereotype of short hair? That's actually all right. I don't know if this is 100% accurate. This is like kind of just it's kind of a guess, a hypothesis, if you will, because I don't really know the story. But in like Western countries, there was a point back in the it was pretty common to have in the Middle Ages long hair if you were a man. Not necessarily required, but it was common. And then people started wearing wigs. And then men started getting their hair short so that they could wear lots. I guess women wore wigs too, so that makes no sense. I guess Gadgeri points out there's male pattern baldness, which is a pretty big thing. But men, powdered wigs. There was like a whole like movement back in the day where looking like you were old was like in vogue, and so people would like powder their hair and such. Honestly, I just realized my entire hypothesis fell apart, and so I honestly don't know. It's a good question, though. Those are the kinds of questions that I really wish more historians would look at. I'm sure someone's written an entire textbook on European hairstyling throughout the past. All right. Why is the Economic Free Fighters, a tanky and supposedly black nationalist party in South Africa, on the rise? I imagine the same reason that it's on... Oh, gosh, what is this? This is like some, like, dubstep thing. Let's shift that. I don't know for sure. I feel like I'm a broken record because I just want to be, I don't want to tell you guys. I don't want to be like, I don't want to be a Carl Benjamin. I don't want to say that I know about things that I don't know anything about. And so I can't really say, but I can say like suspicions, which is that neoliberalism is ruining South Africa like it's ruining every other corner of the world, and people are turning to whatever alternatives they can to capitalism. But I could say that I could definitely guess that that's the case, but I'm not South African, so I can't really speak to that. I don't really follow South African politics. I am comfortable saying I do not know. More men should do that. Thoughts on Robespierre? Remember Robespierre? Somebody, Eric seems to really like the French Revolution tonight. All right. Luckily, I actually took a French Revolution class in undergrad, so I can remember a little bit. Robespierre. They made me take one European history class to get my history major, and so I took the French Revolution, and then I wrote my essay on Napoleon. So like, it didn't even have anything to do with the French, so whatever. So, Robespierre, if I remember correctly, was like the guy who, wasn't he not the guy who was like the one of the main reasons why the revolutionaries got more and more like hardcore, and he was the one who was like making the committee on public safety and like was always like, hey, let's guillotine everybody, and like eventually I think he got guillotined himself. So he was kind of like a rabble rouser within the group and kind of like pushing for more paranoia and stuff. Is that him? Do I have thoughts on him? Seemed like he let his power get to his head, and then he lost his head for it. All right. Argos Panoptes. Thoughts on the anti-vax movement? All right, so this is like the vaccine, the anti-vaccine movement. I just saw a story that came out from CBC Toronto today that says that Toronto is going to have a record high year in the last like several decades on of measles cases, in which we're going to have more than 5. So there's the easy answer to go with, and this is the first thing I'm going to say, which is that vaccinate your kids. Like, I know that there's some people who are afraid of commitment for having children, and so they think like, hey, if I don't vaccinate their kids, if I don't vaccinate my kid, they sort of like live in dog years, and so they'll die when they're like 12 or whatever, and they don't have to be a parent anymore. I know that's not what they think, but it's just yeah, so like it is imperative that you should vaccinate your children against the diseases that you can vaccinate your kids against, for various reasons. You know, your kid not dying should be the first one. That should be the one that convinced you. But also, the loss of herd immunity is dangerous. A certain threshold of people need to be kept vaccinated for the purposes of keeping people who cannot get vaccinations for health reasons from getting the disease, like people who are going through chemotherapy and people who have immunodeficiency syndrome issues, who have immunity deficiencies of some kind or other. And yet, here we are, not vaccinating kids. That's terrifying. And I know that it's. I think there's like there's a history to it. So like that's the easy answer is like definitely vaccinate your kids. There's nothing about thimerosal that causes any negative health outcomes at all, and even then they don't even use like thimerosal anymore in vaccines. Like all of the things that all the people scared others about getting vaccines are not even in them anymore. And so, yeah, unless like, yeah, like don't hold out, don't hold your kids hostage. Like, get them vaccinated. Like, that's the easy one. Let's go one level deeper though, because like everybody on the internet can tell you that like not vaccinating your kids is dumb. But like, why aren't they doing it? There's like, you know, the pseudoscience about well, first of all, there's the pseudoscience about thinking that it creates autism, which, you know, that's scary because, first of all, it's not true. But second of all, you'd rather your kid die than have autism. That's dark. Like, there's a lot of people who have autistic spectrum disorders that have very, very rich and fulfilling lives. Like, it's not like, you know, they're born, they like, it's not like getting a vaccine will turn them inside out. But the second thing is it does show there, like probably 2 things that you can add to that, which is 1, It shows that there is a definite change happening in the way that we respect scientific institutions. I've actually been reading, since I've been reading a lot about ancient aliens and like on Woo, it comes up quite often that there's like this declining trust in scientific institutions that began with the baby boomers in the 1970s and has been continuing. And two, it's very easy to live in a world today where literally all of your opinions are correct. You know, the whole eternal validation thing. And so if you talk to like these anti-vaxxers, like many of them are secluded to these Facebook groups because, let's be fair, they're all Facebook moms. And they are being... They're obsessed with health because we have made everybody paranoid about making all of the right choices to make sure your kids are happy and healthy, which, you know, is a reasonable thing to do if you're a parent. But the culture around it, obsessing over every little detail of a child's upbringing to make sure that it's just right, has resulted in cultures that are paranoid, mix in a distrust of scientific institutions, and then you get people who, through financial reasons, will sell them books on why this stuff is bad, and let alone, like, you know, just writing books to push their pseudoscientific beliefs. They, you know, for money, for fame, for whatever reason, they end up perpetuating it, and so you end up with a lot of like kids who are suffering because there's an industry of people who are making money telling parents who are scared and put under an insane amount of pressure by our society to not vaccinate their children. That's depressing. Yeah, Facebook is where moms go to become anti-vaxxers. Discord is where Gen Zers go to become Nazis. Just drop that. All right. Sirloin of Ice would like to know what I think the next 10 years will be like. So 2029. Tristan is 40 years old. Oh. What could we expect? So what are the, like, let's go on Wikipedia, because Wikipedia, I don't know if anybody knows this, but this is actually a really fun thing to look up, is that Wikipedia has pages for years, which I think is kind of cool. They have pages for every year, and then they have kind of things that are going to happen in that year and all sorts of stuff. So we can let's just look at the 2020s. So they've got like space stuff, which, like, you know, whatever. But you also know what the year page is. Cool. Yeah. So the next 10 years, I do know that there's going to be some elections. I do think that the big thing that's going to be facing the next decade is that we're going to have two reckonings we're going to have to face. One is we have been seeing the crumblings, the last collapse of capitalism happening from 2012 to now, and it's hitting a sort of fever pitch. So I could see the next decade being the decade where we choose socialism or barbarism. Basically, like, we're going to see like fascist governments elected or socialist governments elected, and liberalism is really not going to be able to hold itself together. The second reckoning is that the next decade is when we're either going to have to do something about climate change or die. We're probably not going to see. We're going to see some cases of climate change related terror stuff. But the 5 years the IPCC gave us last year, so basically we have until about 2023 to get our shit together. If by the time the next couple of years, if we're not doing some serious stuff on climate change, I feel like we're turning a corner on it. That's going to result in dealing with climate change as being a much larger political issue than it even is now. to the point where it might become like, you might have some serious climate activism. What else are we going to see here? Just looking at stuff that's going to happen in 2020. It says here, so in 2020 we got elections in the UK local elections, Taiwan, the Dominican Republic. All right, there's going to be an Olympics in Tokyo. Yeah, whatever. The U.S. presidential election. That's going to be. I think that's going to set off. That's going to set off the theme of the decade, right? Who wins the 2020 election? Because it's either going to be, at this point when it comes to the Democrats, it's going to be Sanders or it's going to be Biden. And if it's going to be Biden, then Trump's going to get a second term, in which case, we're going down the darker timeline, or it's going to be Sanders and Sanders is going to win and things might get better. At least they have a higher chance. 2021 says here that there's supposed to be a human spaceflight done by India. That's cool. And Costa Rica will become carbon neutral. That's also pretty cool. I'm really... one of the things I think might happen in the next 10 years is that we might actually get reasonable signs that there is life on other planets. Because next year, the James Webb Telescope turns on for the first time. And the James Webb Telescope is very likely to see some real cool shit when it comes to James Webb is the replacement of Hubble, but there's probably going to be another telescope too that's going up that's replacing Kepler. I think we might see alien life, and I would venture to believe that we'll see signs that there is microbial life somewhere in the galaxy, and that it'll make the news cycles and people will get over it pretty fast. That's my theory. That we're going to find out that that there is life, not intelligent life. I don't think there is other intelligent life in the galaxy, but I think we'll find life, and we will. It'll make the news. It'll trend on Twitter. It's okay to be smart, and SciShow will make videos about it, and then it will kind of just move on, kind of just forget about it, and all of a sudden we'll be like, yeah, there's like pond scum. 60 bajillion thousand years on the other side, the light that's hitting us left that planet at the time of the dinosaurs, and we'll never be able to go there. We're never going to be able to know anything more about it. We're just we're just going to go. Then that's it. That'll be our space. There is some supposed to be another Beijing Olympics. Jeez, how many Olympics do you need, Beijing? The UK is supposed to have an election at some point. Brexit's supposed to happen at some point. UK is a mess right now. Yeah, I think that's enough of my interest. Oh yeah, that's another big thing that's probably going to happen is we're starting to see now the final transition from cash. By 2023, Sweden is supposed to become a cashless society, but I'm sure many of you, myself included, have now gone long periods of time without having any actual cash on them. And I do picture that one of the major changes is once you find an easy way to just give people money, there's going to be a point where we're not going to really have cash anymore. That's probably a thing that's going to happen in the next decade, or at least in a big way. What else is happening? According to Wikipedia, the first manned mission to Mars is supposed to happen in 2024 under SpaceX, but we'll see if that happens. If they're not bankrupt by a year from now. Ooh, there's gonna be Olympics in France. Kind of neat. Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 is supposed to... we're supposed to hit 8 billion people in 2025. So that's a thing. 2026 is kind of boring. Oh, this is cool. In 2027, the FBI archived records of Martin Luther King will be unsealed and made available to the public. That'll be very interesting to see what happens there. There's going to be a common currency in Africa, in the African Union, in 2028. That's pretty cool. And then 2029. So, that's... all that stuff's pretty cool. I think that you can see that's some interesting highlights for the next decade. We'll see which ones happen. Yeah. Fun stuff. Okay. How many Olympics does China need? China only hosted one so far. France through them. Okay. What I was talking about is how, like, Beijing is getting, like... Jeez, come on. How do I make this thing stop? I want notifications to stop. I do think that... I just thought that, like... Didn't Beijing have an Olympics, like... not long ago? I'm trying to remember. Either way. Hey, if Beijing can have both a summer and winter Olympics, then why not? I guess. Alright. Alright. You have to... Alright, next question comes from YouTube person. You have to pick 5 educational YouTubers to survive the end of the world with. Who will you pick and why? Well, okay, I definitely have some answers for this. Because it's the end of the world. I know number 1. Number 1 is the primitive technology guy. So, primitive technology. And second is going to be that, what's his name? The how to make everything guy. Those 2 guys for sure. Then I think I would choose... the next 3 I would choose... one of those guys that that my wife watches the YouTube channels of, who shows you about like how hunting gear works or something. Then are you detecting a theme? Then I'm gonna get one of those prepper YouTubers who teaches you about how prepping, like a canning YouTuber or like a home farming YouTuber. Then one guy who knows how to purify water. I think those are the YouTubers that I want to live out the post-apocalypse with. Is Kelly planning on hunting people? I think the answer is yes, because my wife watches a lot of YouTube channels that are about like basically preparing for the apocalypse, like channels about military rations, channels about survival gear, channels about guns, people just kind of like showing off their guns. She has no interest in owning a gun or anything, kind of despises the things, but watches YouTube channels of people with guns. And so I do think that if she's not planning on hunting human, that she is definitely a prepper, but she just won't admit it. She did tell us that we needed a gallon of water a few years ago, so I do think that that's another example of why we need, that she's a secret prepper. All right. On to page 2 of the questions. True Plus will all be related to Tristan. Oh boy. You know, like, you give that, you know, the Adam and Eve story wouldn't really work because, like, you would need, like, several generations. Like, at least, like, in 3 generations, everybody would be, like, there'd be some severe genetic issues on a long enough time scale. I think you need a minimum of, like, something like 113 people to be a healthy genetic population. And I think you can get it lower, but, like, humans need to start, like, you can get it lower than, like, 113, but basically you have to start having, like, these extremely polyamorous societies where there's multiple, like, women are taking multiple husbands and husbands are taking multiple wives, and they're having like lots of half sibling children, and then you have to be extremely careful to make sure that they do not breed with the wrong people. I think like there was some like genetic thing I remember reading where it was like you can get the population as low as about 32 if you are extremely careful about maintaining genetic diversity, but even then you have to be very, very careful. I don't know how Adam and Eve did it because they had 2 sons, and as I'm sure as you many know, there's some logic issues there. Especially because one murdered the other one, which makes things all the more complicated. I don't even think they answer that one in the Bible, right? Like they just kind of go with like, yeah, Cain and Abel, the children of the first humans, and then there's just some random people there. What role does commercial health insurance play in Canada? Wiki says 75% of Canadians have supplementary private health insurance. What's your experience? P.S. I like the Ramadan video. Well, thank you, Gadariv. Yeah, Canada has a lot of supplemental health insurance, private. So, like, what it means is that, like, private health insurance in Canada covers things like traveling, like, so medical expenses they need to make abroad. Covers things like medication. Our medication isn't fully covered with money, so that's a thing. Third is dental plans. Dentistry is not covered by our health insurance plan. That's still private, so that still needs to be done. I think those are like the main things that like a private health insurance will cover. It's normally just to make the things that you have already better, but it's not like a 2-tier system. There's no like private hospitals or anything like that. But like, oh, and also optometrists and like glasses and things like that, and psychologists and psychiatrists. Okay. So far, he's pissed off creationists, liberals, tankies, and Jacobins. That's a very productive night I've been having. Okay. Eric Hayes, what do you think of the 1st Canadian Regiment in the Continental Army? I couldn't tell you the first thing about the 1st Canadian Regiment in the Continental Army. I don't even know the first thing about the Continental... I don't really know anything about military history. It makes me sleepy. I had to write a description of the Battle of Gettysburg, and it nearly, like, my brain was trying to escape through my ear while I was writing it. This song's kind of nice. Alright, Some Random Geek. Question. My younger brother is a Sargon fan, Gamergator, and Trump supporter. His birthday is this month. What kind of troll gifts could I get him? I got him a feminist book once, and he hated it. Okay. Okay. Troll gift for the chud in your life. I mean, you could always get him a... It'd be kind of uncouth to do this because it's your brother. You could always get him a fleshlight and be like, yeah, you know what? Like, being a giant misogynist does not exactly make you amenable to the ladies, so you might need this. Because, yeah, that's like the first troll gift that I would think of, or just, you know, any sort of forever alone gift, because really having that kind of personality makes you so, like, you see with like how like conservatives are like complaining that women won't date them, which I think is funny, because like they're like, how come my misogynistic how come my misogynistic beliefs prevent me from getting women, because women are a commodity that you can just, you know, do enough nice guy things for and get women to like you or something. I don't know how it works. I don't know how these people think. But when it turns out that women by and large, I mean, there's some exceptions, don't really want to be with guys who think that they're property and also at the same time have terrible opinions about most things, that they will they'll get lonely and then they turn into incels, which I think somebody asked a question about later, so maybe I'll hold out on that. C.R. Smith, thank you very much for the $2.22 super chat. Much appreciated. This is the kind of stuff that makes Step Back function. The reason why I'm even entertaining the idea of becoming a full-time YouTuber is because of people like you, C.R. Smith. You're making it all possible. That one's going to go right into the rent fund. Why has non-liturgical Christianity become the norm? So... let me just get the thing. Okay, relating to liturgy or public worship. All right. Well, mostly because the modern day culture and economy functions in a way where you don't really have a lot of time for third space stuff. So, honestly, when you work so much that you only get 2 days off a week, and you spend most of those catching up on all of the house maintenance that you couldn't do all week, it's not too surprising then that you don't want to spend some of those precious free hours, going to church. Makes sense to me. Not to mention there's a lot of Christians who are trying to get away from, who don't really like the dogma of organized religion. Like, there's a lot of Christians out there who have their own, like, they don't really subscribe to any actual schools of Christianity. They call themselves Christians, and they have, like, a handful of beliefs that they made up themselves, and, like, that's their spirituality. You know, we don't really live in a culture where other people telling you what's right. We already talked about the authority issues a lot of people have these days. I guess those are the answers I can come to a conclusion on. Thank you so much, Sarah Smith. I hope that was an answer that was worth it for you. Are you saying that if we bring Smash Capitalism, we'll bring back liturgical Christianity? I mean, a little bit. I feel like if you have to be Christian, at least having a congregation that can be like your cultural touchstone, your neighborhood touchstone, is a good thing. I feel like a Christian without a church feels kind of lonely and sad. It's all of the guilt and none of the community. Plus also, you know, you can make church not boring. That could work too. Alright, like how Gad got me down. He's like, Googling non-liturgical Christianity. Classic. Yeah. It's how I pretend to be smart. I just Google things. And then I read a lot of random books. Alright. Which country do you think will be so this is Sirloin. Which country do you think will achieve, quote-unquote, true communism first? If you were to follow Marx said it would happen in the most developed country. Given the activism and things like that, I could see it happening in, I think, Europe. I think Europe's going to be where it starts. With, like, you know, everything that's going on in France, and with what recently happened with the election in Spain, makes me think that that kind of political, some place with that kind of political culture, that's a thing. It also could be through like a movement, like a sort of strong movement like the one that's happened in Venezuela under Hugo Chavez, which is, you know, kind of in a mess right now, but something like that could also put it together. All right. What about the cult of Dust? What you said about the cult of Dusty? I don't see the utility in saying former right-wing people have to undergo some kind of penance before they can join the left. Won't that just drive them away? Maybe, but all I want them to do is say, hey, I made a lot of money dehumanizing people who were different from me, and I would very much like to say that I'm changing my tune and that I am sorry to the people I've hurt. And also, those videos where I say all of those things will no longer be on YouTube. Those are like the only things I ask for. The only things I ask for. Like, I'm not, like, against redemption. Anybody ask me, I am, like, a sucker for a good redemption story. But I just think that you need change, or you need to do something. You can't just there's people who, I think, in the YouTube sphere, this is like based on like a Twitter thread I did a few days ago, there's a current in YouTube space, in this sort of social justice space and, like, you know, this reactionary YouTube space, where there's this idea that all of us content creators who are talking about this stuff are part of some sort of kayfabe story, and that, you know, sometimes Cult of Dusty does a face turn, and that's just like a quick thing that can get changed. And in my mind, this is real stuff that has had real consequences. You know, Sargon of Akkad was cited by mass shooters on more than one occasion now. And they have contributed to, and as many of you guys know as young people, that young people are heavily influenced by YouTube and by these people. And this is a problem. And you can't just contribute to all of this pain and misery that has been caused in the world and then just wipe your hands of it when you say you no longer believe in it. Like, I'm not saying that there's no way to make amends, but at least taking down the videos where you say these horrible things is a good start. And you know, saying, hey, no, Nazis aren't good. That, you know, feminism is good. It's not this horrible thing that's going to destroy Western civilization. And that, you know, it was a bad idea to be shitty towards Muslims. That'd be a good start for me. And also, if I remember that Cult of Dusty video, when I was just like, someone told me, like, oh no, Cult of Dusty has completely changed. Completely 180. He's no longer the right-wing shitlord that he was. And then I, like, just went to his channel and typed in Muslims. And, like, one of his most popular videos is why Muslims are, and then the R word. And it's like, there are so many things. There's so many things to get started on there. And then his, like, another popular video is, like, me responding to comments from that video. And it's just like, dude, you should not have a video. Even if you know, it's just about why you don't think Muslims are bad, but you just think that everything that is about their sacred religion is bad. And then also using an ableist slur for extra oomph. It's just, take it down. If you want to respect the humanity of your fellow humans, you shouldn't have videos with that title. That's, you know, that's where I'm at. What's the next question we got? Didn't Bernie vote to bomb Yugoslavia? Well, I certainly hope not. But I mean, if he did, that sucks. Still, it's, you know, fewer wars than many of the people running the Democratic Party. Now there's 22, I found out, that, like, didn't, like, the governor of Montana or something announce that he was running for president this morning? And yeah, there is the whole thing that in Yugoslavia there was, like, genocide going on, which is pretty messed up. I I mean, bombing is definitely not the answer I want to go with, but, like, also, Croats and Bosnians probably have some opinions about this. I don't know. I actually am not, yeah. I would prefer not killing people if you can. That's for sure. Okay. Pseudo Space Marine. Hey Tristan, should I major in political science? Because I'm not feeling too happy with computer science at the moment. Yes. Political science is not a bad major if you like that kind of stuff. Political science is actually like, if you were to take a social science or humanities, and you're worried about your career prospects, but at the same time you're interested in bigger issues and discussing things, political science is actually not a bad choice. Political science can be a strong springboard towards other disciplines that are actually pretty gainful employment. For example, you'd have to do well in political science, but political science is a very easy place to move into law as a career. It's a good place to move into, what's it called? It's a very good place to go get things like a master's in public administration, which is a pretty useful master's degree to get. So poli-sci is not a bad choice. You're just going to have to put up with a lot of... it's going to be made up of a lot of people who self-style themselves as, like, technocratic... Like, you know those, like, memes of, like... Those memes of, like, guys with, like, giant brains that are so large that their brain has turned into another humanoid figure, and they're playing chess against themselves? Or, like, people whose brains are so big that they're riding on top of elephants made of their brain? Like... that's going to be a lot of the people that you'll see in poli-sci, and they're going to be like libertarian or super right-wing jerk faces, and they're going to assume that they are a lot smarter than you, and they're going to be obnoxious. So what I would recommend is do what I did and make a lot of friends who aren't in your discipline. I think by the time I finished my PhD, most of my like personal friends, by the time I left London anyway, my personal friends were mostly like library and information science people and media criticism people, or media studies people. Yeah, Ben Shapiro. Yeah, just think about poli-sci is going to be a lot of Ben Shapiro-y types, especially in America. But I have no idea where you're from, Pseudo Space Marine. Historical geomocule. When will true communism have been achieved? Only once automation becomes advanced enough, if at all. I don't know if true communism is like true communism is like the absolute zero of politics. Like, it's a thing to aspire to and try to get to, but honestly, it's never going to be a thing that's going to be absolutely perfect. But do I think that we could move to a much more communistic society in a very short amount of time in the near future? Yes. I think that you're going to probably need like a decade or like at least a decade or so. The thing is, like, we're still in the advanced countries like Canada and the US, we're still relatively comfortable. Or at least a critical mass of us aren't like, at the point where it's like, breaking. But like, there was a point where there's a point where things are going to break, where it's about like people's everyday lives are threatened. That's the thing. Like the whole 3 missed meals from a revolution type stuff. Alright. Would AL allow humans to see what a perfect society would look like? I don't know what AL is. Could you please, Pseudo Space Marine? I don't know what AL is. Are you talking about AI? Could you rephrase, please? Gaduriv, is Biden actually more conservative than Trump when comparing personal lifestyle and behavior when comparing their politics and political worldview? Ooh, okay, Gad. I would probably say no, just because Trump, with, like, you know, his far right political opinions, his nationalist stuff, that is definitely far to the right of friggin' that's far to the right of Joe Biden. When it comes to economic stuff, Trump does seem a little bit more, like, open to just, like, messing around with the economy, but he mostly just, like, does whatever the right-wing think tanks tell him to do. Like, he's, like, if you look at him, like, policy position. Didn't say more right-wing, I said conservative. Okay. Is Biden actually more conservative than Trump when comparing personal style and behavior, when comparing their politics and worldview? Well, definitely Trump is less conservative when it comes to personal lifestyle and behavior. When it comes to politics and political worldview, it really depends upon what your definition of conservative is at that point. If it's like since I know that you and I are, neither of us are American, that the conservative idea of, like, let's not rock the boat, let's not change things, then yeah, you could argue that Joe Biden is much more conservative than Trump, because Trump is a reactionary, not a conservative, which I think is, I think that that is the thing in America, is that most of their quote-unquote conservative party is not conservative, it's reactionary. Right now, America's political parties are conservative and reactionary, and America doesn't have a liberal party or a leftist party at all. Or you could say that the liberals and the conservatives in America have to share the same political party, while reactionaries have their entire own political party, which is, that's not good. It sucks when, like, all of the non-reactionaries have to be stuffed into the same political party because the reactionaries are so strong that they just get their own half of America to vote for them. All right. Okay, so I'm like an hour behind. I have so many questions to answer. Holy crap. All right, I got to move faster. How do I convince people that capitalism is bad without scaring them? I think just the main thing is, like, you got to meet people where they are. Like, really showing them how examples on, examples about how capitalism hurts their everyday life, and about how how ways that, like, we can be productive, that there are ways that we can make things slightly better. We're on a long fight to overturn everything, but there are lots of socialist things you can do within a capitalist economy that can make things better in one election. For example, electing Sanders. Electing Sanders would change a whole lot of stuff. It would change. He would be able to at least make things slightly better. And honestly, the stakes are high and things are scary. And I think that, honestly, like, a lot of people who know that things are getting worse and they feel bad, but they don't know why. And if you can explain to them why, like, I think most people can be talked into agreeing that their boss sucks, and it really sucks that we work so much. And that we should work to change that. And that, it seems like the free market and capitalism have yet to deal with some of the most pressing issues of our current moment, like, dealing with our carbon dioxide output and dealing with, like, things like antibiotic resistance. So we need to, like, realize that the market's not going to fix that and turn around. I really wish Bernie's campaign could be hindsight is 2020. That would just be like the biggest like middle finger election slogan. I would love it. All right, Pseudo Space Marine. Can't one argue that people should be allowed to choose what they want to do? I'm not exactly sure what's in reference to, but yes. Okay. Gad Uriv, why are Latinos, descendants of Spanish colonists, considered people of color, while the Anglo descendants of North America are not of color? They are all descendants of Europeans. Kind of. A lot of Spanish-speaking countries in the Americas have a different, like, racial, ethnic makeup than in America. A lot more British people were had strict racial hierarchy. Well, they had racial hierarchies in the Spanish-speaking world, but there was a lot less genetic mixing in British colonies, for example. There's a lot more genocide, a lot less genetic mixing. While in a lot of countries in Latin America, you'll have the majority of the population being what is called mestizo, which is a mix of European ancestry and indigenous ancestry. That is like the largest. That's the largest demographic in many countries in Latin America, and so that does display itself as like having a darker complexion, and not to mention that they practice Catholicism and have a different language, which, you know, we say race is just about skin color, but you know, that is but it's also about culture and language and things like that. All the identifiers that people use to otherize different people, and even yeah, like you go to like Mexico. Mexico is something like 60% mestizo, if not higher. So yeah. So the answer to the question is that most people who live in Latin America have the ancestry of both Europeans and indigenous people in their DNA, and it shows physiologically in their complexion and stuff like that. And it does mean that they are quote-unquote people of color. Argos Panoptes, thoughts on becoming an epic gamer and play video games on stream? I am not much of an epic gamer. My video game consumption is actually really, really low. I'm really not feeling video games these days. I got into Dwarf Fortress about a month ago, and I feel like that would be like stream poison to play, because Dwarf Fortress is just like it's a game that's in your head. It's not a game that's good to look at. There is a new Stellaris expansion that just got announced today that I'm a little excited for, but like, I don't know. I've just been too busy making YouTube videos and doing my job and hanging out with Kelly and stuff to play video games. But Kelly's away this weekend, so maybe I actually will get to play a little bit of video games. But honestly, I have more fun making YouTube videos, and I also am getting into drawing. I don't know. I can show you guys this here. But if you look down here, this is a. First of all, look at all that. Look at the 41 concurrent viewers there. But that is a drawing tablet that was gifted to me by somebody, and it is. I'm taking a drawing course on Udemy, and I've been having a lot of fun drawing, and so I've been enjoying it a lot, and I'll probably get into that quite a bit as I get further down the line, because I like drawing. It's very relaxing. It's a very good way to spend my off time that I think I like more than gaming at the moment. But I've never been a person who really likes to buy new games or anything like that. I usually buy games like several years after they come out and when they're on sale. But at the moment, I don't know. One game I really would like to finish is Super Mario Odyssey. I never finished that, but I always forget that I have a Switch, and when I remember that I have a Switch, it's because Kelly's playing Skyrim on it. Okay. Some random geek question. How terrible are contract faculty professors for those professors? How terrible would that be for further research for non-STEM fields? It would be awful for research because basically, instead of being... So, like, when you are a tenure track professor, you get so many courses per semester, and you get to take sabbaticals every few years. Which means that you have a lot more time to dedicate to doing research in order to build up your discipline. Or to, build your portfolio and build the reputation of the university. When you're contract faculty, in order to make ends meet, because you're only paid like a few $1,000s per course. So when you're a contract faculty, in order to pay the bills, you end up having to take a lot more of a heavy course load than your average non-contract faculty. And oftentimes, you're not able to get enough courses to pay the bills at one university. And so you're often bouncing between either several campuses of a university or several different universities teaching courses. And between prepping for all of those lectures, grading all of those assignments, and, answering a bajillion emails, it's not a fun experience. And there is, you never know if one semester to the next you're going to be able to get the courses that you need to pay the bills. And between like that much stress and that much work, you're just basically and instability. You're very often unable to not only financially plan ahead, but on top of that, you're usually unable to get time in order to do your research. Like if you're a full-time contract faculty, when you're the only time you're working on like your other work, like your research work, is off hours. You're not getting paid for doing research at all. Nobody pays you to work on your next book. While like if you're a tenure track professor, you get they'll give you a year off every few years to work on a research project, and on top of that, you teach much fewer courses, so you are able to work. So it makes doing research virtually impossible. Now, many people still manage to do that a little bit. People do manage to somehow do a little bit of their research while they're also teaching a million courses, but it's like that's them working on the evenings and weekends, and not like not something that's sustainable or healthy. Doughboy DeVito, do you think that there are jobs that don't actually require college degrees to do them well, but still require them so that their hires are made up of the middle-class white people who could afford college? Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, there are tons of management positions. The job that I have, maybe not the job I have, but there are a lot of jobs where it really doesn't matter. Like, the skills that you gain in university to do them are soft skills that you wouldn't necessarily need to go to university to learn. But especially because a lot of fields move so fast that you don't there are a lot of jobs I think that you would just be able to learn as you're doing it. Like history as a field is known for putting out people who are good self-starting project managers who have good writing skills and good critical thinking skills. But you don't take a writing class in history. You don't take a critical thinking class in history. It's the thing you pick up. And there are other ways to pick that up. Although I will stand, and this is one of the hills that I will die on, is that I think that everybody should afford to go to college, because the years that you spend in college I think are key to developing a healthy adulthood. And I really would like it if we could get everybody to go to college, even if it doesn't mean anything for their future careers, just to spend 4 years developing into an adult away from home and such. Would you consider Robespierre a leftist? I don't think that left and right really apply very well in the context of the French Revolution. I think that our modern concepts of left and right wing as political poles really begins in the 19th century, and that Robespierre really doesn't fit the model. It's really left and right wing politics as we think of them today are a industrial age pole. Did you see Ben Shapiro freaking out on the BBC? I haven't seen the interview, but I have heard what happened. Okay, the left and right started in the French Revolution. That is true. But like it's very much like a proto-left thing. It's not like, yeah. All right, it looks like I'm getting owned in the chat on this. I still don't think that our modern concepts of left and right wing apply to what was called the left and right, or what could have been the left and right in the French Revolution. Like, I don't know if Robespierre was about radical redistribution of the means of production. There's not, like, he wasn't a socialist. There were socialists back then, and he wasn't one of them. Which I guess would make him right wing. There you go. There's your answer by the end. Did you see Ben Shapiro? Okay. All right, I'm getting owned. All right, I guess we have to hold off. We can't get to Ben Shapiro yet. We have to talk about this. Yeah. Left and right wing are, they're convenient terms. They're not exactly perfectly descriptive, and they mean different things in different periods. Back then, I think in like sort of the pre-socialist days, that being a bourgeois liberal, I think as like Marx would write about it, it was a bourgeois revolution. I think in that video that I made for when Cypher and I did the thing on world revolutions, that the French Revolution fits under sort of a bourgeois revolution, a sort of capitalist liberal class, which, you know, when liberals and conservatives being the ones that are for the monarchy, are the two poles of political discourse, then yeah, I guess you're on the left, aren't you? I like when smarter people than me just put stuff in the comments and I can just, or in the chat, and I can just kind of articulate it. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. And then everybody somehow is still convinced I'm smart. I don't understand how this happens. All right. Now we can talk about the serious and important stuff about Ben Shapiro getting his little bum spanked by a BBC politician, or BBC, not journalist, not politician. Oh my god, brain's starting to fail. I'm having a Geller field failure in my brain. Okay, so Ben Shapiro did a BBC interview where he got. Basically, he got owned because of his anti-abortion stance by... I don't really know too much about the journalist, except that I know that he has a reputation for being extremely right-wing in the British sense, and also being a little bit of a crackpot. So, like, it would be an absolute joke to call him left-wing or to call him a leftist or anything like that. Ben Shapiro, who probably did zero research... went into the interview, and when he got questioned, he just defaulted to, because like he comes from American debates where, like, you know, American journalists tend to do these like very like these very non-confrontational interviews because they want to have repeat interviews, and so they tend not to ask follow-up questions. So that's probably what, you know, Ben Shapiro was like expecting. British like journalists love to fucking eviscerate their guests, and so this one was trying to, you know, get one up on Shapiro, and Shapiro, who has never been actually challenged, and was mad that facts didn't care about his feelings, got angry, resulted to name calling against. Oh, his name's Andrew Neil. He basically resorted to name calling and being like, "Why can't you admit you're a leftist?" And it's like, this guy is like well known for being a conservative. and walked out of the debate because if he's not yelling at a college student, who's like having a freak out, Ben Shapiro has no way to debate people. He refuses debates with all sorts of people. He all he wants to do is look like he owned somebody in a video, and that's why he has those dumb videos with titles like Ben Shapiro owns purple-haired liberal with facts and logic. When if he were to spend 5 minutes with an actual intellectual, say, I don't know, Noam Chomsky would just walk up to him, grab him like a kaiju, eat his head off, and just drag his intellectual corpse off the stage while he was thumping on the ground crying. It would be not even close. But Shapiro's to make a Ben Shapiro. Whoa, what was that? Ben Shapiro, to make a football reference, is sort of like the Italian national soccer team, where he wins his games more through the meta game of complaining to the ref and winning with red cards and yellow cards than being better at debating. If that makes sense. Oh man. And even then, this guy wasn't even a debate. It was just questions. Oh man. Any Marxist Eric Hayes? Any Marxist-Leninist leaders that you respect? I mean, I've been studying. You know what? Even though the guy's a fucking monster in some ways, yeah, a Marxist-Leninist leader that I can say that I at least have begrudging respect for is probably Ho Chi Minh. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna go with. That's gonna be my answer, Ho Chi Minh, because he was just trying to free the Vietnamese people by any means necessary, and realized that liberalism was not going to be a way that liberalism is not the solution to the thing. Fidel Castro is also begrudgingly respectable. He imprisoned political prisoners, but the shit that he did as president of Cuba while you had America trying to choke them out of existence. I can't wait until the online turbo Marxist-Leninist left starts getting into Ba'athist Party stuff, and you start getting the chat starts saying, well, why don't you respect Marxist-Leninist leaders like Saddam Hussein? And you're gonna get people with avatars of avatars with that, and have tight names like Saddam Hussein did nothing wrong, and that kind of stuff. There's probably people who do that. Okay, Argus Panoptes. Do you think there are limits on pure reason? Whew. Okay, let's see. How can we answer this one? Limits on pure reason. Yes, there are limits on pure reason. Reason is unable to appreciate the aesthetic at all. And I mean, that's the big one. I'm not much of a philosopher, so I can't really answer this, but there are way more domains in life that don't make sense under pure reason. I feel like I'm wading into a philosophical discussion that has a lot more author names and philosophical constructs that I should be talking about that I know dick all about, and I'm just yeah, pure reason. Sure, reason's nice. What does reason mean? Good breakdown. Sterling advice, how many years until the revolution? I've had this conversation. I don't know. I feel like the 21st century. I hope before I die. That's my answer. Can the communist revolution happen if no one is able to take humanities courses that tell you what communism is? Yes. I think that communism does not need to be taught in universities. It does not need to be taught to get it. You don't need to like. You don't like. I am not a I'm not like a mucist, or a Zexixiist or whatever his name is. I don't think that you need to have read thousands of pages of dense German philosophy in order to understand how economics fucks people over. I think that it's very, very intuitive, and it's like it's very. This is where my anarchist side comes out, because I'm not like a person who needs to like understand the ideology. Doesn't need to understand how the fetishization of commodities work in order to say, hey, let's get rid of capitalism, yo. It's done nothing but harm. All right, have you read Gramsci? Oh gosh, we're getting our tabby memes out. That's how you know things are getting bananas. In anarchist society, how would we solve problems that require global solutions, like climate change, for example? Is some centralization justified at that point? I mean, mass collaboration. I feel like, we can't even solve climate change with centralization. I feel like more centralization just concentrates power in ways that disincentivize actually doing anything about these issues. I would think that, working together collaboratively, because I do think that an anarchist society is not going to be this like cut off, like rural commune type life. It's going to be one that's highly integrated with each other and highly cooperative, and people are going to have incentives to do things for positive long-term change, because they're no longer pushed by the incentive to make more money by the end of next quarter. Like, you live on a planet with other people, and not respecting that will have negative consequences for everyone, so you wouldn't really want to fuck that up. And so there's going to be more collaboration. Comrade Jeb, making a history about the Iroquois. When I was in school, we learned a lot about those. It's the main core of the tribes where I live. Well, Jeb, if you're talking about the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, which is what they prefer to be called, or the people of the Longhouse, yes, actually, I am making a video on that. It's going to be out on the last day of May. So that's the video I'm working on now. Or that's the video I'm furthest along thinking about. Thoughts on destroying historical landmarks that they symbolize bad things, like the Bastille? Ooh, I need to get a better answer on this one. I really do. I do think that history needs to be preserved in one way or another, but I also know that we live on a living planet with people, and things happen, and humans happen, and to sort of think that we can encase all of history in preservation and never have it change and never have it degrade and never have it update is what's it called? It is short-sighted. It is conceited. And that I do think that every single historical object that we've ever made is going to no longer exist someday, and we have to kind of decide that maybe sometimes things aren't necessarily needed anymore. Because I would think that if the Gilets Jaunes movement got really rowdy and destroyed the Arc de Triomphe, that, for example, that would be another period of history. That would be a new thing in history. And we have destroyed a lot of historical stuff in the past, and some of it's a tragedy, some of it is like part of the story. Oh no. It's Saddam Hussein did nothing wrong. What if I... No. Oh man. I feel like I just uncorked something very, very disturbing that I'm now scared that I did. Oh no, Jeb. Jeb, this cannot see the light of day. I'm sorry. Eric Hayes, as an ANCOM, I ask everyone this. Thoughts on pirates during the Golden Age? Ooh, yeah, pirates are, pirates are fun. I want to make a pirates video because, yeah, as you're probably hinting, is like, pirates are, fairly, pirates lived a, like the Pirates of the Caribbean type period, like on the high seas. They were fairly democratic. They were run via, like, captains were chosen via election, and they could be undone pretty much at any moment. And so I definitely am a fan of talking about, democracy on the high seas, and I will definitely I want to make a video about that. It's low priority because I don't think that video would do very well, but maybe someday I'll make it. And Non-Compete just did a video on pirates, so I guess they got me beat. I guess I'm done. Goddamn. I wanted to do a video on the Crusades, and then freaking 3 Arrows made a video about it, and then I wanted to do a video about pirates, and then freaking Non-Compete does a video about it. So I guess I won't make a video on pirates. And there's Ching Shi, who there's a really good video on Feminist Frequency about her. At least I think that's the right person. The Pirate Queen. Alright, minority governments result in more legislation that lasts. Why is that? Well, most of the time, legislation that passed a minority government tends to have to be, by the definition of a minority government, has to be made with, has to be made in collaboration with another political party. And so, if 2 political parties approve of a piece of legislation, it's more likely to not get repealed by the next government. It's a thing that happens in Canada a lot, which is that, like, very often, the way the government works here is you'll get one government that'll take over, and then they'll do a bunch of stuff. They'll unroll a whole bunch of programs while they're in, and they'll rule for like maybe 2, 3, 4 terms. Like, I think like the prime ministers who ruled the longest were like, 12, 13, 14 years. Then they lose to the Conservatives, and then the Conservatives will then spend the next like 4 years undoing literally everything that's been done in the last 12 years, because they have all the power and it'll just get removed. But minority governments, if you have an alliance between 2 political parties, you might be able to get some more permanent stuff done. Not like perfect, but more stuff done. Glitch 42, is the wait after a shooting an inheritive conservative position? The wait after a shooting? I feel like I'm missing something. The wait after a shooting. Glitch, if you can rephrase that, I would be really appreciative, because I would really love to answer your question, but I don't know. Sirloin of Ice. What happens if they build a temple and nothing happens? Well, Christianity has there was a time, like, Christianity has faced a lot of signs of revelations coming that came and went, and they found new ways to interpret to interpret canon, to say that, oh well, I guess we were wrong on this case, well, next time. Like, early Christianity, they were pretty concerned. They thought Rome was the enemy, and they thought that the end times, that Revelations was going to come and take down the Roman Empire. And the Seventh-day Adventists thought the world was going to end, like, in the, like, 19th century or something like that. And, like, then when it didn't end, they just kind of kept coming back, thinking it's going to happen any day now. Like, I think if you did like a poll of Christians throughout like all of human history, if you did like a poll of Christians throughout all of human history, Christians would be convinced that the end of the world is nigh most of the time. That's my thought. Because Christianity now is all focused on waiting for the end of the world. That's what it's about, right? We're just kind of sitting on this flat Earth, waiting for the seven-headed beast with 3 crowns and like the 4 horsemen to start showing up and all that kind of stuff. Like that's the happy ending of the universe, and we're just kind of in the awkward middle time between the Bible and the Revelations. Okay. Okay, so you're talking about the wait for spreading news. Is it a conservative position? I mean, holding off on spreading news about a mass shooting is probably a good idea. I feel like we should be doing more to keep the to keep the fame and recognition from committing a mass shooting from getting out there. I feel like there should like with suicides, there should be like a media ban on publicizing the name of shooters. Maybe even not even reporting on them at all. I feel like that would actually result in them going down. But is that a conservative position? I don't know. I don't know how conservatives think, to be honest. This isn't really a left-right thing in that case. I mean, it is in America because America's weird, but it's a public. It's like a right to information versus public safety type issue, which can go either way when it comes to left-right debates or conservative liberal debates or whatever you want to say. Okay, you're referring to like, let's not politicize shooting, let's wait and not talk about it yet. We can call out as conservative. Oh, that's definitely conservative. That is, when that happens in America, that's not about like, it's too soon to talk about it, because they don't give a shit about that. No, it's about because every time the person who does that is brown, they are very quick to talk about it. No, it's about dodging conversations about gun control. That's it. They just want to find any way to avoid having to say right after a bunch of people have died that we are paid a lot of money to make sure that people are not trying to roll back gun ownership. That's it. Because America's weird, very weird, especially when it comes to guns. All right. Jeremiah Danny, tips for starting an educational history YouTube channel. Yeah, there's a couple things I can say to get started. One, people care a lot more about audio than they do anything else. Take a look at channels like Sean or 3 Arrows, and how without any real graphics fidelity, they have made extremely successful YouTube channels based entirely on high quality content and good audio. So get good audio. 2, make sure you realize that you are telling stories, that you have a through line. If you are going to make videos that are just, your undergraduate essays, people will get bored. You have to realize, actually, in most cases, you need to, even when you're writing essays, realize that you are telling a story about a character that is trying to achieve something and has things holding them back, and how they get it and how that changes them. Third piece of advice I would give you is to start. Your first videos are going to suck. That's just guaranteed. Take a look at the first Step Back video to ever come out. Just check it out. Just go watch the first Step Back video and realize like what that was. Because the more videos that you can get out, the more, like, you know, of decent quality videos that you can get out, the more that you can practice at getting better at making videos, to get more into a groove of making videos, to get them out. But also, because of how YouTube works, for every regular video you have, you are going to have a new way for somebody to discover your content. I.e., like, every time I make a new video, forever, theoretically, there is now a thing where if somebody searches for that, they might come across it. And that's probably going to go to number 4, which I think is like the last thing that I'll tell you, and I think is probably the best advice for a new YouTube channel for history, but for many other subjects, which is that when you're first starting, like even where I'm at, you don't have a big enough audience that you can make something popular through the sheer force of your audience numbers. Which means that one of the first things you have to sort of get over, and I've seen a lot of YouTubers who struggle and stop, who don't grow, and they give up because they don't learn one important lesson, which is that you have to think of your content not so much, I mean, still make content that you want to make and that you enjoy making, but think about your content from the perspective of the people who are coming and looking for it. Which means that videos need to be, for a while anyway, made in a way so that people who are searching, you know, Googling it, will find your content. Because that is the way that someone who's never seen you are going to find you. You need to focus on things that you know people search for. My most successful videos are like my religion videos and my brief history of country videos, because that's what people look for. I have one of my most popular videos is on the Rwandan genocide, because there just wasn't a good video on the Rwandan genocide, or there wasn't a, like, I think like the only Rwandan genocide video besides mine was like 3-minute history or something like that, and like wars and Jabzi, and I made mine. It's longer than those ones, and it ranks. People watch it. It's got more watch time, high up on the search results for searching for the Rwandan genocide, and it does well. Sudan, same thing. My video on Sudan does well because whenever somebody searches Sudan on YouTube, they see my video. And just find things like that and make videos about that. I think that's like the best way to get started. Another way to do that, that's not just like, you know, appealing to like graduate, like, or appealing to people who are Googling answers to homework questions and stuff like that. But on top of that, you can also do what like 3 Arrows does when it comes to doing history education stuff, which is that you tie your history lesson to, in his case, a response video to something. So like his video on the Crusades is framed as a response to, I don't know, David Rubin or Steven Crowder, one of those two. I think they're the same person. So that way, people who are searching for, like, you know, there's like a framing device in that case. Because you just want to think about it's like something that when a million years ago when I used to be into Magic the Gathering, which is that, like, instead of thinking about like what things you want in your deck, think more about what is the condition that you're going to win with. What is the thing that is going to, how is somebody going to find your video? How do they find it? And work back from there. And that's why video responses do so well. That's why drama does so well. It's why doing videos on subjects that are more like something that some people will Google for does well. That's basically it. All right. If you were elected into office, what would you do to improve Canada? Like, I would make university free, first of all. That's like a big one. I would make dentistry a public utility. And then I would probably go and start nationalizing all of the industries. I'd probably nationalize Amazon. That'd be my first thing. I'd be like, Amazon is now a government thing, and then just because I feel like if you nationalized Amazon, that's like a huge segment of the economy that's just now, solid. That's now public, and I would try to make as many things public as possible. And I would also try to increase democratic control over the government. So, direct, probably moving towards proportional representation, things like that. What history book should I always carry around to look smart? Well, if to look smart, trying to think what's a good book that that everyone when I was in grad school, everyone was nuts about the new Jim Crow. That was like the big thing. Lies my history teacher told me. I guess that's not a way to sound smart. These are just good books, not really books that you use to sound smart. Probably something that's like one of those. There's a few books that you can read in academia that people read to sound smart, but most people when they read them don't understand them. So if you walked around with like Simulation and Simulacra, or like Discipline and Punish, or if you walked around with Discipline and Discipline and Punish, or Simulation and Simulacra, those are two dense theoretical books, or Body Without Organs, or Plateaus of Time, or Plateaus of History, or something like that. Thousand Plateaus, that's what it's called, Thousand Plateaus. Those are all extremely dense, nigh unreadable books of theory that will definitely make people think that you're smart. Because if you can say, I read Foucault and I understood it, you are all of a sudden the smartest person in the room. Any tips for encouraging my university to start an Indigenous Studies department? To start new departments, that's a big one. You would need to get involved with the academic senate. Either having it as, I think you'd get better off with trying to make it a program within a department, like as a program within the history department, make an Indigenous Studies thing, and try to see if you can push a couple classes to be done. Which then, if it gets popular and it does well, then it will if they find themselves with so many people in the program, they might make it into its own department. But like that's like that's how you get started. Or get somebody with a lot of money to kickstart it for you. Like when I did my master's at Western, I did it in the American Studies department, and the only reason the American Studies department existed was because like a couple millionaires or billionaires or whatever just like gave Western a huge grant to start an American Studies department because they wanted to. You'll have to show that there's like that there's desire for it, and that it'd be a way to get more tuition money out of people, or that there's a rich donor who will give you money to do it. That's basically the ways that that it works. Any tips for encouraging my we did that one. Is there any chance you could do a collaboration with Emperor Tigerstar or Alternate History Hub again? Maybe. I don't have a lot of discussion with them anymore ever since we kind of just stopped doing the podcast. I wouldn't be against it. I mean, I feel like those channels do very different things than what I do. But if Emperor Tigerstar slid into my DMs and said, "Hey, do you want to do a video together?" I'd be dumb to say no. The Germany video did really well, and I would love to do another one. All right. In post-gender world, would there still be people who feel the urge to transition surgically or hormonally? Would that still be important to people if genitalia didn't determine societal role? I don't know. Probably up to them. I don't know. Sorry. But I guess if people had primary or secondary sex characteristics that they wanted, then yeah, I guess they would still do it. Are those D&D 5e books on the shelf behind you? Yes. Yes, it is. I buy these. I buy a lot of them. I basically buy any D&D 5e book as they come out that's not an adventure. So that's a whole bunch of D&D books. That is like, let me see what they got. There's Player's Handbook, Monster Manual. There's a couple of third-party stuff. I have the Ghost of Saltmarsh coming later this month. So, yeah. The answer is yes. I'm a big D&D nerd. I run a game on Wednesday nights, and I play a game on Friday nights. And even that, even like, having played D&D now for almost 2 years, I still think that it's the highlight. They're the highlights of my week, and anytime I'm not playing, I do just randomly start thinking about it. And I'd love to, if I had no, if I had no job and I had no expectations and I had nothing, I would probably just play it all the time because I'm a nerdo like that. Although I do like the fact one of my favorite things about D&D, I think, is that in our age of binge watching TV and stuff, it's the game that forces you to live on a schedule, which means that you can't get the whole story at once. You have to play the game and then come back the next week or the next month or whenever it is you play. And the entire time you get time to think about it and talk about it with the other players and build up hype, which is a thing I think that we are actually missing from TV. And now nobody's watching the same shows anymore, so everyone is like paranoid about spoilers and nobody has common cultural touchstones. And so I feel like watching TV and watching movies these days has become less of a thing that I really wish would change, because I would love to I would love if we had more water cooler type stuff. I think it's what made shows great in a way that we don't appreciate as much. All right. Are you comfortable with forcing child vaccinations? Yeah, I think so. Kids need vaccinations. It's like, are you okay with forcing parents to feed their kids? Sounds kind of authoritarian to me. What do you think about pro-life communists? I mean, I disagree with their concept. I don't know. I don't think it's right to do. I think abortion is necessary for a functioning election. I mean, it wasn't nothing. They knew that getting Trump elected president would result in them getting what they really wanted, which was the Supreme Court that would overturn Roe v. Wade, which is why they supported such a freaking goofball who had nothing to do with Christianity, but they voted for him anyway. It's because he would get them the Supreme Court judges they want. He would get them the legislation they want, so who cares? Which, they want to turn women into broodmares, and it looks like they're going to get it. Have you ever used Rational Wiki? I found them to be a good source for learning about pseudoscience, dog whistles, and conspiracies. I have heard about Rational Wiki. I think is it the 9/11 Truther page or the Holocaust denial page? One of those, there's a step back video that's actually cited as a source on a Rational Wiki page. And so I actually get a little bit of traffic from Rational Wiki. So yeah, I like Rational Wiki. Thoughts on alternative energy routes to prevent climate change? I like all of them. I think solar energy has advanced leaps and bounds since the last decade, even the last 5 years. I think that space solar collecting is a thing that will become a reality. Wind power is getting better year on year, and I think it's doing great. And what else is there? Nuclear power is fine. I have no issues with nuclear power, and a lot of the anti-nuclear environmental groups are funded by fossil fuel lobbyists. So, yeah, that's like not even a thing to worry about, or it's not a thing that we should be worrying about. Nuclear power, and there's new directions of nuclear power we're going with all the time with things like what's it called? Like the liquid fluoride thorium reactors, things like that. And yeah, there's all sorts of stuff like that. I think there's then there's the promises of like really good power sources in the future, like fusion reactors, the power source that's been 10 years away for 30 years. If we can crack that nut, that's a huge source of electricity. Then there is like the real sci-fi ones of like matter antimatter elimination power, which like we are nowhere close to figuring out how to do in a way that we can make electricity. We can still barely put together antimatter as it is. All right. Thoughts on incels? Give me all the easy ones, huh? Incel dumb is a sort of... Incels are a group of people who have looked at the sort of fucked up situation that is heterosexual dating and have interpreted that their lack of luck in dating is everybody's fault but their own. They blame feminism, they blame women, anybody, as long as it's not them, they can blame anyone. I think that I think that and it results it results in literal terrorism. And I think, hey, Decoy Sheep, thank you for the $5 super chat, much appreciated. Sierra Smith, you have a great night, thank you. I think that my position on incels, as somebody, there's two ways I can talk about it. One, Natalie's video, the ContraPoints video on incels, is probably like the best video on incels that I've seen. So watch that one. Watch the incel video by ContraPoints. And then the next thing I would say is like intervention with these people is key. As somebody who could have gone down that route if I had made a few wrong choices, if my head was just a little bit more in the wrong place. As someone who was single for a long time and really, really didn't like it and put a lot of effort into trying to fix that, but to no avail, I understand the pain and the feelings of rejection and frustration that come with that, and I empathize, but I do not sympathize with their position, and I think that they are giving into easy solutions, and they're giving into anger and hate in a way that is not productive and is just toxic to their own mental health. And it's sad. A lot of their stories are very sad. Thoughts on Epic Gamer / YouTuber getting exposed for bad things like cheating? For example, Pro Jared. Oh man, so as a person who's not much of a gamer but who is very much a D&D player, I saw the whole Pro Jared thing from the complete other side, which is like, oh shit, I guess I don't have to watch Dice Camera Action now. You know, that was a podcast I guess I was going to check out at some point. Decoyed Sheep, by the way, thank you for the $5 super chat. Couldn't send you nothing last week, but got you this week. Much appreciated. Yeah, so Pro Jared. From what I found out later, he's a YouTuber, a gaming YouTuber, who left, or who announced he was getting divorced from his wife not long ago, like last week. But then, basically, he wrote this whole statement about how his wife was, or his ex-wife was crazy, and she was going to accuse him of a bunch of things, and he blocked her on Twitter. So she put this Twitter thread out about how she has, like, she found through his old phone that he had been cheating on her with another woman named Holly Conrad. And then, as that got all the attention, it turned out that that he had been soliciting nude photographs of underage fans, which, you know, was another next level of fucked up. And it's just been like a whole ride. I don't have too much sympathy for somebody who tries to get nude photographs of children. So the T and the Twitter like hazing is, I don't really care. I don't have a ton of sympathy for Pro Jared, but it says a lot about how celebrities can abuse their celebrity to get away with some horrible shit, like the stuff that he had done to young girls for so long. I think that it also speaks to, I mean, the other thing is, like, it broke up because Holly Conrad was another player in Dice Camera Action, and so Dice Camera Action, I think, is pretty much dead. But yeah, I don't. That's like, I don't really know anything about Epic Gamer YouTuber stuff, but I think that pretty much sums up everything that I can say. I swear I'm going to get caught up before the end. Alright, question. If your wife was painfully dying, would you be willing to help her die even if you knew it was a good chance you'd go to jail? Yes. But that's not an issue anymore, so it doesn't matter. What's it called? Medically assisted suicide is legal in Canada. And it would be yeah, it wouldn't be an issue anymore. But yeah, to end somebody's pain, even if you knew you were going to jail, I feel like there's a tough it's a tough thing to think about. Obviously, it's like one of the most traumatic things to think about. But also, very often in those cases, there's often a lot of leniency involved. I don't know. Argos, thoughts on utilitarianism? Are utilitarian? Will you kill the fat guy to save 5 people on the rail? I feel like there is a utilitarian angle to, like, the trolley problem, which is what you're talking about, the killing one guy to kill 5 guys, or to save 5 guys thing. But utilitarianism has its uses. It has the idea that you should do things for the maximum benefit of the most amount of people has its benefits. There's certainly drawbacks, and people have used utilitarian thinking to justify terrible things. And the real pedantic philosophers will say, well, like, if you could have one happy person, or if you had a world of 1 billion happy people, that would be just as good as having 10 billion miserable people, because the total amount of happiness would be the same or better. And so, like, that is, like, whatever. But the idea that you should do things for the most amount of people, yeah. Get a lot of philosophy questions when I'm like, I don't know much about philosophy. Alright. Don't very leftists like us are also unpopular with women because I believe you once said that leftists are mostly lonely people. I don't know. I think I was talking about how right-wing people are. I feel like I sense that leftist people. This is something that I get a lot of shit about in personal life, which maybe says something. But I think that I don't see that much difference between the personal and the political, and I do think that a person's politics can speak a lot about their personality. And if somebody is reactionary, hateful, and bigoted, that while that manifests in their politics by them being like a fan of Sargon of Akkad and into the alt-right and into Trump, it also manifests in them as a person being selfish, bigoted, cruel, and nasty, like antisocial, really. While leftist ideas are about cooperation, sharing, fairness, and justice, which I think translates into personalities that are for being egalitarian, just, kind, empathetic, which, despite what, dinguses on the internet will tell you, who have not talked to a woman in a long time, women tend to like guys that are nice. Women like guys that are nice to them. This is I know, hot take on the internet, but women typically, especially women who are grown-ups, don't like men that are jerks. They like men that are fun. They like men who are confident and make them feel appreciated. And sometimes men are good at appearing nice and turning into nasty folks when you get to know them. But there's I don't know. I think that everybody feels lonely. I don't think it's just a leftist and rightist thing. I think it's just a capitalism thing. But when it comes to the dating scene, being a nice and interesting and confident person who puts in a little bit of effort into their relationships and shows genuine interest in other people, that's the good stuff. That's my dating advice. And oftentimes, when because a lot of people who get really red pilled on on stuff, they have this whole sexual marketplace idea, and they have they often chastise women for having impossible beauty standards for men, while having impossible beauty standards for the same women, which I think is just the peak irony of a lot of incels. But what can you do? Be nice. That's what you can do. I'm sorry for all of the women and men who don't like women, but for all of the heterosexual dudes in the audience, just be nice. Be nice to women. Don't be a dick. And listen to people, and don't make conversations about yourself. You'd be surprised how well you do. But I think the main thing that a lot of men who kind of go into the inceldom type stuff is it's a form of social awkwardness, which sometimes you can't control that, but it is a skill that you can learn, and it's about confidence, which is, a tough thing to have, but, to just realize that It's okay for people, like, people want to talk to you. People want to hear other people and be heard. And if you can participate in that, and eventually, you know, on a long enough time scale, you'll click with someone. And also, yeah, women can be socially awkward too. I feel like I was pulling all of the hetero dudes aside for a second to just be like, hey. Okay. Have you ever had to hide your leftism when you were in offline spaces? Oh yes. Oh yes. 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 There are often places and conversations. One of which is my in-laws. Like when I go home for the holidays to my my wife's like mom's house and all that family, they're all extremely right. Well, not like extreme right, not like internet right, but they're all, you know, Midwestern conservatives, where if I were to even come close to saying anything that I actually believed about the world, they would probably not welcome me back ever again. And so, you know, I spend 1 week of the year just kind of being quiet and polite and don't say anything. I watched that Cult of Dusty video you mentioned. The video was about how he thinks the story of Muhammad is ridiculous and hard to believe. He doesn't say anything about Muslims besides that. Well, for a religion of people who think that Muhammad is the literal prophet of God, you don't think that comes off as just a little insensitive? Not on top of that, but titling the video "Muslims are R-worded," like... Did Obama ended racism in 2008? You know it, bud. 255. Was the person who told you Dusty is now on the left me? If so, my actual opinion of him is he's a moron with enough of a conscience to leave the alt-right. I don't know if it was you. It was someone on Twitter. And I don't know what your Twitter handle is. Hope I didn't say moron. I didn't. I really hope not. Oh, wait. You didn't even imply that. What do you think of Obama and Biden as people and not politics? I think about most celebrities, you find out with the, as you found out with the pro Jared situation, is you don't know famous people. You can't really speak to their personalities. You don't know who they are. You don't know their personalities at all. I don't really want to have a parasocial relationship with them. You're thinking kind, Tristan, not nice. Yes, be kind. Be generous and be considerate. That is the Tristan Johnson dating advice. It's real valuable, I've heard. No, wait, I would never recommend that. Find out the things that Roosh V says to do, and then do the exact opposite of those. Thoughts on mercury and fishes? Are ocean fish overexploited, and should we do something? They are definitely overexploited. They're, what's it called? We're on a pretty tight schedule to have a massive collapse of the global fishing, of global fish in general in like mid-century, where there will just like not be fish anymore, or they will be so expensive that you won't be able to afford them. So yeah, I don't know about mercury on the fishes because that's weird, but I definitely think that if you could not eat fish, that'd be great. Eric Hayes, thoughts on Thought Slime's April Fool's video about you? Well, I mean, it was great. It was funny. I knew it was coming. I know that kind of spoils the surprise, but he had told me about it a long time ago. Him and I were planning those. I made an April Fool's Day video too, and we had both been thinking about making them for months and months and months. In my case, it had been like a year. So I knew it was coming, and I mean, I got like a shit ton of subscribers out of it, which means, I can't complain there. And on top of that, there's a really great story about it because my mom saw it and didn't think it was satire, and she was like really mad at him and was like, I thought this guy was your friend. I was going to leave this really nasty comment on the video because, like, I thought you guys were friends, and he was like so nasty, and I was like, oh geez. So in my mind, I thought that was a sweet mom thing to do. But I think that I'm very appreciative that Slimy Boy did that for me. I think, I mean, him and I are really good friends. He's in my D&D game. We talk a lot. Like, it was a very sweet thing for him to do. In, like, all satire aside, it was a very kind thing for him to do for me. And it set off my April quite a bit. Yeah, April was a very good month for Step Back. Okay. The Map Channel. Do you know how British the average American is? Sorry, I don't know if you already answered this question. How British the average American is? Please elaborate. What do you think about the situation in the UK at the moment? It looks like I haven't followed along too closely. I think you're talking about like the Brexit stuff. It looks like maybe Brexit's gonna do like a double circle around, a double triple backflip around, where there's gonna get a second referendum, and if second referendum can get pushed, then like yeah, that'd be good. Be very, very good. Because like yeah, Britain shouldn't leave the EU. It should stay in the EU. It should stay in the EU. And if they vote, if they get a second referendum, it will, I hope, result in the UK staying in the EU, and I think that'd be best for everybody. If he means genetics, then the average American is, I don't know, maybe a little bit British. British people, like, there's definitely British. There definitely are descendants from Britain in America, but if you like talk to like your average, like American, like so many Americans have immigrated through various different waves and from different countries that like the whole like quote unquote old stock American, the whole like New England aristocrat is no longer the majority. Let's just say that. Most people in America can trace their origins back to several European countries, if not several countries from around the world. Yeah. Here's a fun topic. How do you define race, and when would you say that it was created? Well, Cypher, I would say race developed. I think that race and colonization are, like, some people have tried to point out that, like, even people pointing to other people's having different colored skin is race, but it's not really. What we call about race, about, like, creating classes of people who get different sets of rights or different sets of expectations based on where they're from, or their skin color and, like, visual markers, goes back to like the 17th century, about maybe the 16th century. It's colonization. It is the legacy of slavery and the colonized against the colonized ruled over by the colonists, and race is a thing that developed over time. It was a lot more of a mutable category in, say, 1576 versus like 1813. And it was a lot more fluid. And then it kind of locked down as things about maybe in the 1600s. And then, then the scientific revolution happened, and those hyper-rationalist people got super weird. Yeah, I'm supposed to be English too. You don't get a last name like Johnson without being English. All right. You said Fukuyama disagreed with the end of history now. Where is the source for this and why? I'm not doubting you, by the way, just curious. He said it in several things. I don't know if there's been like an essay that came out that said like, I have, I have solved, or I have taken back the end of history stuff. But like, if you, like, the most recent interview I heard with him was when he was on the Ezra Klein show, in which case he was speaking endlessly about how we need to deal with inequality before, like, everything swallows us whole. And Ezra Klein was like, but what about not inequality? Because Ezra Klein, if you ever, like, listen to Ezra Klein interview somebody, every time somebody brings up inequality, he does a fucking triple cow sow backflip. Like, he could win the gold medal in gymnastics for, like, the things he does to avoid talking about inequality. So, I think that Fukuyama's... and read anything by Fukuyama post, like, 9/11, and he's, like, taking back the end of history stuff. As a Canadian, how do you feel about Putin's 8 goals? I don't know what Putin's 8 goals are. All right, random geek. If 50% of the jobs in the future are freelance, isn't that just a terrible, possibly bleak future? Being employees via contracts without actually being treated as employees? Yes, some random geek. That does sound bleak and terrible. It sounds very bleak and terrible. We should try and avoid that. Are there any books by Fukuyama? I can't think of any off the top of my head. I'm sorry. Alrighty. Where were we? Have you seen Cinema Night's new video about the Red Summer? It was so good and doesn't have enough views. No, I haven't seen it. Amelia M, if you are on Twitter or something, send it to me. Eric Hayes, who is smarter, you or your wife? Definitely my wife. My wife finished her PhD and knows how to do a regression analysis and knows what Bayesian means in, like, mathematical terms. I can complain about Game of Thrones on Twitter a lot. Whoa. Scared me. Isn't Saddam considered rightist these days? I have no idea, honestly. I don't hang out in the weird corners of the internet. Thoughts on black Ukrainian forces? Didn't I do... are you talking about, like, the Nestor Makhno and Makhnovia stuff? Because I did a video on that. You should go watch it. Why did Mikhail Bakunin join Giuseppe Garibaldi's Italian unification wars? Weren't anarchists on the ideological opposite side of the nationalists? Maybe it was because of the opposition to a monarchy, but that doesn't sound right either. I couldn't answer that for you. I don't know anything about this situation. I don't even know too much about Mikhail Bakunin. I'm not really super into him. I'm more of a Kropotkin dude. Are you going to retire if more left-tubers join? I hope not. I hope to keep myself relevant in the modern day. I hope to keep doing this as long as I can. If I can get myself into other media spaces where I can sort of, if I can, like, if younger people want to be on YouTube and I want to, like, advance to, like, writing books and talking on television, trying to get people to get more into socialist stuff, that'd be fun. But I hope to stay relevant. I just gotta, be for the right audience. Luckily, millennials, there's a lot of us, and we're not going anywhere, so I can still talk to them. If I had anything else to say about the black Ukrainians, not really, I'll be honest. Most of the research I did for that video ended up in the video, and I made that video almost 2 years ago, so I don't really have a whole lot more to say. All right, we're getting near the end, so I'm gonna try to rapid fire these questions. All right. What's BreadTube? Well, Comrade Jeb, there is a subreddit called BreadTube that is basically leftist YouTube, and it's great, and it has sort of become a name for all of left-wing YouTube, has BreadTube. So BreadTube has kind of just become a term for that now. Who is the conservative you respect the most? Richard Nixon, because he believed in trying to thaw the Cold War. That was nice. Will you endorse a leftist who has a great personality who leads Napoleon-like? Would they spread the message that they might make a cult personality? I'd be nervous about one of those. Will you collaborate with Batco? I don't know who that is, and I feel like I think I've heard the name before, and something is setting off red flags in my head, so probably not. Have you heard of Overly Sarcastic Productions? They do a lot of the same things, and you could do a collab with them. Yes, I have heard about them. I had a brief back and forth with Blue asking for advice about music, I think, at one point. So I talked to Blue once. But yeah, I like their history videos. If you go full-time, would you do a podcast or at least co-host one? I do have a Patreon stretch goal to do a podcast, but podcast is definitely high on my list. There was a brief moment, and maybe when we're both full-time we'll revisit this, but there was a brief moment in like early 2019 where before he went off to coding school, Thought Slime and I were thinking about making a podcast called This Week in Hell World, but I imagine that would be a fun... he'd be a fun collaborator to come back to and talk about something with. I don't know if he'd say yes anymore, but that it's an example. When I go full-time, I'll be able to do a whole lot more stuff. I don't know what those things will be. I'll have to find a way to most efficiently use my energy to give you guys more stuff, but also to make my videos better and translate it into better content. So we'll see. Because I have to ride that line between better and more, and I want to side more on better these days. You should play D&D with Hugo and Jake, then do a chick tract with them for your Satanic Panic video. That'd be fun. Thoughts on Mike Gravel trying to reach out to members of the Portuguese left bloc? I don't even know where to start with that one. It can be important to engage with the other side of the political spectrum, but is it dangerous to tolerate them on a Discord server when they are using dog whistles and radicalizing others? Yes, I wouldn't really want to hang out with them on Discord. Discord's a terrible place to have a lot of those conversations. All right. Have you read anything post-colonial like China Achebe? Yes, I have read what's it called? Blackface's White Mask, I think it is, by Frantz Fanon. Fanon, sorry. So that's I have read some post-colonial stuff. All right. Would you ever run for office? Well, Professor Frank, I thought about it a while back, but thought about it like not too long ago, like back in December. But then like I kind of got into a situation where like I'm too varied in my interests, and I wouldn't want to have that hyper local focus that would be required. And then on top of that, I don't know if you've seen, but like, I feel like I would be absolute fucking toxic waste to any party as soon as they, hire opposition researched. That kind of stuff. All right. It is 9:59. It is time. My throat is fucking dying. So, everybody, you have been great. This has been a great show. Thank you for all of the thoughtful and insightful questions. I hope that you were satisfied. Thank you very much to all the people who did the great super chats. You're keeping this ship running, man. I really appreciate it. And hang tight. And I'll see you next time for more Step Back.